Hey guys, welcome to this edition of the Spot of the Week. So let's get into the action, playing some 5-10 three-handed, facing a button raise. We 3-bet with pocket queens, and the button calls. Flop is ace-6 deuce. I play a range c-bet strategy here for 1/3. My opponent calls. Turn is the 3 of clubs. I check and face a 2/3 spot sizing. So let me know if you think you have a mandatory call, or if you think you might be preferring to fold here. I decide to call. River offsuit jack, I check and face a close to pot size shove. So please let me know, what would you do here? What do you take into consideration? So we have this interesting spot with pocket queens on the a6 deuce, small blind versus button 3-bet pot. So let's see what the solver suggests. So we can indeed see that this board is very good for us, and we can bet our entire range for just 1/3. We see that our opponent is mostly gonna play call or fold, doing a very little bit amount of raising with basically mostly bottom set and bit of pocket sixes, bit of ace queen, and a variety of different bluffs like a bit of 7-8 suited, etc. But in general, we're gonna see a lot of people play call fold here. So yeah, the only hands that are folding are the suited broadways without the backdoor flush draw mostly, as well as hands like king queen off, king jack off are folding. So turn is the 3 of clubs. We can see that we are now supposed to check with every single one of our pocket pairs, with the exception of pocket sixes being a set, and 4s and 5s seem like one of the mainly used bluffs, which makes a lot of sense because we saw that in position is still floating a lot with the suited Broadway. So if we do bet with a hand like 5s here, we can easily see that, he's folding this region of hands, also folding quite a few pocket pairs that beat us. So it's a bluff / protection against the Broadways, basically. So I like that one. But yeah, the 9s through kings for us is always checking. So we can see that our opponent is betting a more polarized range. Therefore, he's going to be betting 2/3 or check mainly. The reason we don't see any small bets is that there's no reason for a hand like pocket 7s to bet small, because there's no hand that he can get value from with a hand like that. So protection is not a thing. That's why we're going to see only bigger bets. So against the bigger bet, we can see that we're mostly continuing ace-x, and the only pocket pairs that we're continuing are going to be kings through jacks, and then jacks with specifically spade diamonds seems to want to fold, which makes sense because, you block the floats that might now bluff, like, queen jack suited, king jack suited type of stuff. So you don't really want to have that combination. So it makes sense to continue mostly pocket pairs with a club. You can see that queens and kings are pretty much pure calls here, but it's already starting to fold a little bit, which means that the EV is going to be quite close. So we call, and river is an offsuit jack. I believe it was the jack of hearts. Let me quickly check. Yeah, it's the jack of hearts. And we check and face a shove. So as you can see, the solver suggests to pure fold any pocket pair that, so kings and queens are never calling, as well as like other lower pairs are never calling. So we're basically just calling most of our ace-x, and that's kind of it. It even prefers to call a hand like 5-6 or 6-7 of clubs rather than a hand like queens here. So that's what the solver suggests. I myself in game decided to do make the call, and the reason for that is my opponent is a very aggressive regular. So the bluffs that I'm looking for here from my opponent are going to be 4s, 5s, 5-6 suited, and then maybe even some Broadway cards, but mostly the pocket pairs, 4s and 5s. So let's see what the solver bluffs and why it never calls with kings and queens. So let's see the turn strategy for our opponent. So here we can see that his polarized betting range is going to have 4s and 5s at like a non-full frequency. So you see that 4s with a club is like 55% and without a club is really low frequency. And 5s with a club is even higher frequency, but still not full frequency. And 5s without a club is at no frequency. So you can clearly see that if we are playing a bit of a more passive opponent, you definitely don't want to get sticky on the river with a hand like pocket queens, because a more passive opponent's not going to find these bluffs with 4s and 5s. So if we check the river, he is supposed to be following through again, only at frequency with 4s, and it should be checking 5s quite often as well. So what you kind of see here is the interesting situation that occurs that, you know, a passive opponent is likely going to be massively under bluffing here, and an aggressive opponent is most likely going to overbluff with the pocket 4s, 5s, and 5-6 suited. As you can see, 5-6 suited is also giving up river quite a bit. So yeah, that's why I decided to call the river, because I think my opponent's creative enough and aggressive enough to bluff these small pocket pairs maybe a bit more than he should. So yeah, let's check the results. So this time I was lucky enough to be correct, and my opponent did have the pocket 4, so we did scoop a nice spot. But yeah, I think it's a very nice spot to review, because you could clearly see that this is a spot where you might want to get sticky against really aggressive opponents, but against the average, slightly more passive opponent, you definitely just want to fold the river. So I'll see you guys next time.